Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Oh my god, y'all. This season of Love is Blind is already so wild. If the season 4 cast has anything, it is the audacity. I do want to quickly give my disclaimer about reality TV and judging all of these people. I just want to remind y'all, because you get very passionate about Love is Blind and other adjacent shows, that this is just a TV show. It is highly edited, highly produced, and we don't really know what these humans are like behind the persona we are seeing on the TV show. So although I will be judging a lot of these contestants harshly, potentially through this video, because season 4 is really on one this time, but we have no idea how these people are in real life unless you actually know them. And I feel like we learned this lesson the hard way with SK last season, because if we judge him based on what we saw on the show, he's a great guy. But we all saw what happened after the show, where he turned out to be a lying and cheating scumbag. So you just never know how these people are on the show versus off the show. In this episode, I'll be covering the first 5 episodes of season 4. Those dropped on March 24th, and I feel like Love is Blind has been upgraded to Friday drops. Usually it's been Wednesday drops, and I'm so glad, because I will be able to provide update videos more easily now that they drop on Fridays. In general, my thoughts on the season are, if you love drama, if you love reality TV villains, this already I can tell is gonna be the best season for that. If you love mess like Marie Kondo, this is your season. I have noticed so far the trends look like the men seem a little more sensitive in this cast, which is refreshing after the trashy men we got in season 3. I wonder if it has to do with this season, all the couples are from Seattle, and last season they were all from Texas, and I'm from Texas, so I can criticize as much as I want, but I would say the patriarchy is more deeply ingrained in a city like Dallas, Texas, compared to somewhere like Seattle. So I wonder if that has something to do with the men being a little more, I don't know, they just seem a little more in touch with their emotions and not seeing that as a bad thing, which is nice. However, on the other side, we have some wild ladies on this cast, and I'm kind of excited because we are seeing the birth of one of the greatest Love is Blind villains we have seen. Also, there was this random guy in the pods they seemed to cast. It seemed like a stunt casting decision. His name was Billy, I think, and he's the one that liked leopard print. It kind of gave the vibe of Bikini Girl in the American Idol days, where she was just there in the auditions to cause buzz. I'm expecting moving forward, Love is Blind is going to continue to have a lot of stunt casting and just throw in like a wild card in the mix of the pods. The doors that Andrew and his fake tears opened. So let's start with our first couple, and I'm going by order that they got engaged, and that is Tiffany and Brett. This is our boring couple of the season, but boring in a good way, because they seem to be doing well. They were the first engaged, first to have a connection. They had no love triangles going on. So I was comfortably, taking my notes, watching the episode, and I saw that they were having their in love conversation. Everyone on Love is Blind follows a pattern of the first couple get to know you dates, then they have the falling in love conversation, then they have the I'm in love conversation, and then they have the proposal. Usually that is the successful journey everyone's aiming for. And so this couple was already at their in love conversation, like towards the proposal. I was typing in my notes, okay, great, they're gonna be the first proposal, all good to go, first engagement, check. And then this girl, Tiffany, falls asleep on Brett while he is pouring his heart out and saying he is in love with her and whatnot, just passes out. And I thought this was so funny. He was actually so offended by this, which I was shocked by. I do think maybe he thought she like walked out on him or something in a rude way. It is rude to fall asleep, but I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that it was a long day. And also, she got really comfy on that couch. I know when I lay on my couch with a blanket on, there is a 50% chance I am passing out cold. And I don't blame her. It's probably cold in there too. So sometimes it's like, it's dark, it's cold, like it just feels good to pass out. She like fell asleep for a long time too. Like he left, she was just sleeping, and then her friends had to come in and wake her up, and they were like, woohoo, and she was like dancing for a solid few minutes before being like, wait, where's Brett? Oops. Unfortunately or fortunately for her, she is never gonna live this down. She is always gonna be the sleepy queen of Love is Blind. And if I was her publicist, I would say, let's go and collab with some Sleepy Time tea ASAP, some Casper mattress, some pillow collab, I don't know, Squishmallows, and just brand myself as the sleep girl of the season. Maybe I should become a publicist. But yeah, she's never gonna live the sleeping thing down, and it's kind of wholesome. I don't think it's that bad. He does ultimately forgive her, and they do get engaged, and they do become the first engagement. So I deleted my notes, then I typed it again. First engagement, check. They were just seemed like a good couple. They got vulnerable. They had no drama between them, which everyone else kind of has some big issues. And then once they met, they had a lot of physical chemistry. They were kissing. They had the most like affectionate meeting as well. And I'm really rooting for this couple. I think what I really like about them is that they're both in their mid-30s. Tiffany mentioned early on she was worried about her age being a detriment in this experiment, but he's only a year younger at 35. And I just feel like their maturity shows, and they both are pretty calm and chill people and just seem like a good match. I don't think that these age gaps worked out. We saw it a lot in season 3. Women in their 30s trying to date guys in their mid-20s who would cheat at the first DM they got after getting famous. It just feels like this couple's more like on an even playing field, and both actually want to settle down. They kind of feel like the, you know, Lauren and Cameron of the season, the Alexa and Brennan of the season, where they're pretty solid from the jump. They go their honeymoon, they don't really have much drama there. Their only like interesting thing that happened was they got like terrorized by a raccoon, which I thought was pretty funny. That was like a little subplot I wished I had more information on. And this season I've noticed has been a little slower on the sex front with all the couples, and even this couple that was very strong waited a few nights to have sex. By episode 5 though, they had done it and they're good with that. Okay, so getting the simple couple out of the way because the rest are gonna be a lot. Okay, so next is Micah and Paul, which I think Micah and Paul are kind of the main character couple of the season so far. So in the pods, Micah, aka Blonde Leighton Meester, sorry Leighton Meester, I didn't mean that. She's stuck in a love triangle between Kwame and Paul. Micah had a big red flag right off the bat. Let's all say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. She's an empath. That was the red flag in one of her first dates with Kwame that immediately my guard went up. You know when someone's a self-proclaimed empath, most of the time they are up to no good. Right when she said that, I wrote in my notes, villain of the season, question mark? Yeah, villain of the season. Fucking Regina George of the season. So Micah is a mess. Let's just start with that. I don't even know where the fuck to start with her. She's moving really fast with Kwame, and they even have the I'm falling in love conversation, which is kind of like midway and starting to get serious on Love is Blind. But she is having this slow burn kind of relationship with Paul. The thing is, Paul is also in a love triangle, and he is between Micah and Amber. Him and Amber seem to have a lot in common and just like a good chill dynamic, but he is very intrigued by Micah. Pretty quickly you start to see that Micah is a mean girl, and we're talking like Regina George level. We're talking like music video of a pick me song like Misery Business or You Belong With Me or Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, except Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne is kind of from the perspective of Micah in this case. The bitchy girl is the one singing the song, which is kind of cool. Anyway, I'm getting off track. She is mean. So she knows that Amber is into Paul, and she's insecure about her standing with Paul because she really wants him, even though she does have this thing with Kwame going on. I think the reason Micah is letting so much of her mean girl side show is because she found a Gretchen Wieners to her Regina in the pods in Irina. And we'll talk a bit about Irina in her section later on, but you can't talk about Micah without talking about Irina. They were drawn to each other and became quick best friends, and they are just both so mean. They almost feel like paid actors. They're like fictional characters, teen movie level mean girls. There's one date where Paul gets Amber flowers and she does like a Mardi Gras thing with him, and they are just shading their date, saying like, oh, he wouldn't go to Mardi Gras, or just making shady comments at her to try to break her down. And I feel like because she had the competition with Amber over Paul, Micah started forgetting about Kwame. She didn't want him anymore, and she decided to choose Paul. So because Micah decides to move forward with Paul and not Kwame, Paul agrees and they decide to become exclusive. And yeah, I just felt that Micah really went for Paul and decided to be exclusive with him just because she had the competition with Amber. And she wanted to like one-up her. Hey, you, I could be your girlfriend. You know what I mean? So Micah says, I'm gonna end it with Kwame, you go end it with Amber, and let's meet back up later. When Paul and Amber are having their final talk and breakup, Micah is distressed in the pods, like, what is taking them so long? He's supposed to be ending it with her. And just so catty, such catty behavior. It's interesting because as a reality TV fan, I am living for having a true reality TV villain on this season. 2 of them at that. Every season of Love is Blind, they try to make certain people the villains, and they just kind of take the most flawed individual and paint them as like evil and malicious to villainize them and just make the plot better. But very few times in reality TV you get a villain that is unashamedly a villain. Micah and Irina are not accidentally stumbling into making cruel comments to other women. They're not accidentally eavesdropping on people's conversations or laughing at people crying. Most people on Love is Blind that have been villainized, like think of Jessica season 1, Barty season 3, and Cole. These people think they are a good person, and they try to convince the audience that they're a good person by providing excuses for like, well, I was just being honest, I was just feeling out the experiment. They try to justify, they try to explain their side, and I don't believe those people are like intentionally malicious. I think a lot of them are in this pressure cooker or have unresolved mental health things that they need to work out, or are just kind of a shitty person in a relationship, but not like a bully or like malicious to others. And very rarely you get a villain that is malicious, and Micah and Irina are that to a T, to the point where I'm like questioning, like, are they paid actors? Because this is just too good. The only other villain I say it was like this, like just kind of owned and self-aware of his villainy, was Shake in season 2, but he had such a boring cast to play with. I feel like he didn't maximize his potential as a villain character. It's a self-awareness with these true reality TV villains that like they are not afraid to manipulate, to gaslight, to be toxic, all on international television. And that's the craziest thing, because all these other people that have been villainized before because they did bad things, they tried for the cameras to seem like a good person, even if they're not underneath. But these people like Shake and Micah and Irina, I believe, are displaying this mean behavior on camera, on international television. That just tells you how like unashamed they are of this type of behavior, and they will now be infamous. The interesting thing too about a villain is that I am rooting against them, and I want their engagement to not pan out for them. I don't mind having a villain main character, to be honest. Like, I like fictional stories like that. My favorite novela growing up was Ruby, which is kind of like Teresa, that's a similar one, where the main character is an evil bitch. But the thing I want the most as a viewer is to see the villain get their karma in the end. I don't know how that's gonna play out this season, but it's kind of fun, like just as a reality TV consumer, to have a couple that I'm rooting against. villains. I know it looks like I'm living for these villains, and I am on the TV show, but that's separate from, like, I don't endorse their actions. I don't condone it. I am terrified of these women. Like, they are every teen mean girl, like, in every high school. They are scary, like, and I think many women have dealt with this type of person before. At least the personas they're showing on the show are awful and just cruel. Both Micah and Irina don't have many redeeming qualities. And Paul is just kind of this nerdy guy. He's in environmental science. I did get a weird vibe from him at first. I think the red flag I got from him was that to several people he was dating in the pods, he would say, oh, at our wedding, we'll play this song. Or when we get married, blah, blah, blah. I just feel like he was kind of using that language a little too early and possibly giving people like false hope. It kind of read as disingenuous to me, but he hasn't after that really done anything to be shady or give me a reason to believe he's shady. Is he a wolf in sheep's clothing? Honestly, I would live for that story as well, where like you have, you know, the nice girl and the mean girl, and then the nerdy guy that they're fighting over. You know, the mean girl gets the guy, but later he realizes the nice girl is the best choice. But then the plot twist at the end is that he was the evil one and he's like a cheater or something. Where's that teen movie? I want to see that. I'm not saying that'll happen. He hasn't given much red flags beyond that first thing that felt a little weird. I feel bad for Amber. She got the short end of the stick here. Picked on by the mean girls, got rejected by the guy even though he had kind of led her on. And at their breakup, she was like, fuck you, Paul. And I was like, work. It's so funny. This whole situation reminds me of like in Little Mermaid, Prince Eric gets engaged to Ursula, where she's like disguised as the hot girl instead of Ariel. And I find it so funny how these mean girls, you know, they're all catty and shady in the women's living quarters, but when they get in the pods with the guy, they are all charming, trying to be vulnerable with them, like just like getting them into their spider web. And it's just, I want to avert my eyes, but I can't stop watching. Paul falls for Micah's charms and proposes. He says some really poetic shit to like propose, and she kind of already is showing a little bit of her mean girl side in this moment, because she's like almost teases like she's gonna say no to the proposal and then says yes, and he really thought she was gonna say no. So already she's like, let me tease this boy now that I have him. I was wondering when her mean girl side was gonna reveal itself to Paul, and it did not take long. At the honeymoon, she's already like making little comments in a joking tone, but not joking, about her being kind of salty about him talking to other people in the pod so long. They do have like a chill vibe though in the honeymoon. They have physical chemistry, but they do keep it chill the first nights, and I don't think they've had sex yet that I know of. She says she finds his dorkiness endearing, and he says something really weird. Okay, something is cooking with Paul, and I'm not sure what it is yet. He mentions that he always goes for the granola girls that are always brewing something, like potions. Are you dating witches? Like, actually? Was he dating Jinx Monsoon before this? He's in for a rude awakening. And he's already kind of getting awakened by the end of these few episodes. The drama really starts with Micah when they meet all the couples. So the meeting of all the couples is the big event. It's always like a pool party. There's always way too much alcohol. Whatever the producers are giving them at these pool parties really makes shit happen. So Micah finally meets Kwame, and they have a lot of chemistry. She immediately starts being very flirty with him. Paul is just kind of, I don't know where he is while Micah's flirting this whole time with Kwame, but she is, and she's already saying like subtle digs at Chelsea, who Kwame's with. We'll get to her later. She's like, now that I've gotten to know Chelsea, she seems really nice and really genuine. Sure, she can be a little extra, a little much sometimes. And Kwame's like, yeah, she is. It's kind of like when Regina George is at the Halloween party and telling Aaron Samuels that like Katie Heron writes all over her notebook, Mrs. Aaron Samuels. That vibe exactly. Trying to be positive, but actually throwing someone under the bus. Micah admits to Irina that like Paul isn't her typical type. And Irina is like, he's my type though. And she's flirting with Paul during this pool party, which we'll get to later. Paul does mention he's struggling not to look at Irina's boobs, so there is some spark with Paul and Irina, sort of, even though they weren't like talking that much in the pods. I don't know how that's gonna work out, and that's what I'm excited for, because the two mean girl best friends, even though they're best friends, they help each other and validate each other's meanness. Irina's into Micah's man, so is she gonna betray her best friend to steal her man? Or is Micah not even gonna care because now she sees another guy that she doesn't have and another girl has, and she wants to take that guy, and Kwame. Micah and Paul are already having compatibility issues. He does seem more granola. It makes sense. He's dated granola girls, and she's definitely more of like a glam city girl type. You know, she has visible plastic surgery, full glam kind of girl, both her and Irina. We see Micah and Paul go on this jungle drive, and she is uncomfortable with like being outdoors with dirt getting on her, and he is living. We saw something like this actually in season 2 of Love is Blind Brazil. One girl was just kind of more indoorsy and glam, and the guy was more adventurous and outdoorsy. She was giving like Meredith Blake in The Parent Trap, where she goes hiking and hates it. I'm killing it with the references today. Even without all of the messy entanglements and drama Micah and Paul have going on, they don't seem very compatible and have much in common. And Paul even admits to, I think, Zack or somebody, that he is second guessing his choice a bit, because he did have another connection that was very strong with Amber, and he was really sad having to end that. After the pool party hangout, they do another hangout with everybody, and Micah notices that Kwame is a lot more cold towards her. They had been flirting kind of a lot in that first pool party, so Kwame got in trouble with Chelsea. Micah notices this and goes to try to make amends with Chelsea. This conversation does get interrupted by a storm, but I kind of felt like this whole thing was just to look good, like for appearances, to look good for Kwame. Like, Micah is trying to look like she's mature and calm and wants to squash any beef with Chelsea. I don't think she did it out of the kindness of her heart, but that's just a theory. I have no hope for this couple. I think there's going to be so much mess with both of them, because they're both in love triangle sort of situations, and we will see. But Micah definitely feels like the main character of the season, even though she is a hardcore true villain. If Micah doesn't get her karma in this season by the end of it, she is going to get it now via the internet. And I do not endorse, I'm never someone that sends hate to people, and I don't endorse anyone doing that, but knowing how the internet is, I feel like she is going to get so much hate for being a villain this season, and she's either gonna own it, be happy with her fame, maybe that's what she's after, or she's gonna get broken down by it. So yeah, let's move on to our next couple. That one was long because they just have a lot going on, and it's kind of like a important thing for this season to have such a strong villain character. So let's take a break from the drama with Jackelina and Marshall. So in the pods, Jackelina, aka a mix of Selena and Angela from America's Next Top Model. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? That is a deep cut. And Jackelina is hair goals, I gotta say, as well. I love her hair. And I feel like she would have been a main character on any other season, but this season we got bigger fish to fry, and she is kind of like one of the background characters, and they're kind of like a background couple. She is torn between Josh and Marshall. We don't really see much of Josh, so it's kind of clear she's gonna go with Marshall from the beginning, but she's still very torn. I kind of feel like she only picked Marshall because she said she named her Roomba Marshall, and that was a sign or something. Their connection doesn't seem that strong, but we just didn't see too much of it. We don't really meet Marshall until episode 2. We see them bond, but he's mad because Jackelina was supposed to end it with Josh at a certain point, and she couldn't because Josh was going through it or whatever. So Marshall gets upset, and he's like, who do I have to fight? Which I thought was a little much. This couple, I get confused. I just feel like I don't have enough information about like what's going on, so I can't judge their interactions very well. To me, it seems like a red flag that Marshall's like, who do I have to fight? I have to go fight Josh now. He does confront Josh in the boys' lounge, but it doesn't become physical or anything. He almost kind of breaks up with Josh for her, which is weird. I'm telling you, this couple confuses me. I feel like their edit has been just strange. But she's happy that things with Josh are over somehow, and then Marshall proposes. When they meet, they are slightly more tentative. There seems to be attraction issues on her end. They do kiss when they meet though, so they're not like totally awkward. It just feels like there's a tentativeness to it. And in the honeymoon, we start hearing her say that he's not really her type and that she would have swiped in the real world. And Jackelina is one of my favorite as like a commentator for the season. She's sort of my relatable queen of the group. Like when Marshall asks if she wants to push off having sex till after the altar, she's like, hell no, I need to test drive the car. So I just feel like she's a little more grounded, more real. She does have this emotional breakdown in the honeymoons. She's like worried about back home, the real world. This was also kind of like strangely edited or produced, where it's hard to understand what is making her upset. Marshall is really good and comforts her even though she keeps pushing him away. But I think the deep root of this breakdown is that she's not feeling Marshall as much, even though he's such a good guy and he keeps showing how good of a guy he is. So I feel like she's sad that like she's not wanting the guy that's best for her kind of thing. She does apologize for her breakdown the next morning. And he's very nice and chill about it all. And she's realizing like, dang, he really loves me based on him being so nice. But again, there's this like hesitance with her. She's not like fully present and enjoying the honeymoon, which is what they're supposed to be doing. So I feel like that shows like a big issue is underlying with this couple, and she's just not feeling the attraction she wishes she was feeling. When they meet the other couples, Jackelina is so funny. She becomes like my commentator, and she is shady sometimes, but like I give her a pass because she's funny. I'm sorry, if someone's gonna be shady but make it funny, like I am going to live for them. When she sees Brett, she's like, damn, he kind of fine, and Marshall's like, I told you. And I love that response. Like that felt like a real couple response, even though I'm not that confident about this couple in general. And I feel like in the previews and trailers, like it seems like Jackelina is gonna get really messy, but I just live for her commentary. She says that Bliss dodged a bullet with Zack and Irina, which is a couple we'll get to, but she also says Zack is creepy and needs to stay 6 feet away from her, and that Irina is a peasant who is always doing dumb shit. Oh my god, Jackie calls Micah and Irina frickin' frack. It's funny. I'm sorry. Marshall had this other great moment where he was talking to the other black men in the cast. He mentioned like people that look like us don't often get to show our emotion because they were just talking a lot about their feelings. That was just really nice to acknowledge, and Marshall in general has just seemed really emotionally intelligent, especially compared to like a lot of the men we've seen on this show. Next, let's talk about Chelsea and Kwame. Oh my god. So we've already talked a bit about them because, you know, Kwame is involved in Micah's love triangle. In the pods, Chelsea, aka Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock, she connects with Kwame pretty early on. She is kind of stylish. I really liked her pink look when she had the engagement meeting, but something about Chelsea feels chuggy to me. Next episode, when we see their apartment, she's gonna have some live, laugh, love signs in her apartment, or maybe she's a Disney adult. I gotta say, Chelsea is my coworker energy of the season for me. She feels like someone you would know from work. But I do have to admire her standing up to the mean girls, the bullies, in the women's living quarters. There was one point where she straight up asked Micah and Irina, like, why are y'all so mean? And it just takes a lot of balls to like be confident in yourself and straight up ask the bullies, like, why are you such a bully? And she didn't do it like in a confrontational mean way. She was pretty calm about it too. And the mean girls were just kind of like, I don't know, just cause. So Chelsea is really into Kwame. They have this conversation about wanting to connect their souls during sex, and after that she's like, I'm in love. She doesn't say that because that's an important word to say in Love is Blind. So she's just like, I'm really feeling this is amazing. And Kwame's kind of like, yeah, this is cool. And you can just tell like her desire for him is just so much greater than his desire for her. And we talked about Kwame a bit. He is really into Micah more than Chelsea, it seems. Then Micah ends it to pursue Paul. And Kwame is torn up by this breakup. Like, it feels like a real life outside of the world breakup. I appreciate that he was so emotional. It was just nice to see him, you know, be vulnerable. He was also kind of blindsided by the Micah breakup because it seemed like they were the strongest couple and Paul was more of a slow burn. Kwame did kind of scare off Micah by saying he wants to propose early and wants to like ask production if he could. Micah just felt that Kwame was trying to stake his claim too early and not give her enough time to explore her connection. I feel like that was Kwame's kind of mistake and what ran her off a bit. Once Mike is out of the picture, Chelsea is his only option, and so he continues to develop his relationship with her. It becomes one of those situations we see every season basically. Someone that is settling for their second choice. We saw it with like Jarrett, who wanted Mallory but settled for Ayanna. We saw it with Jessica, who wanted Barnett and settled for Mark. That was his name, right? Very similar situation where Kwame is trying to like convince himself that he wants to be with Chelsea, but it's kind of obvious by the vibe that he is just settling for her and she is really into him, so it's just kind of awkward to watch play out. In the engagement, he like played guitar and sang to her. I went on TikTok at this point, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if something important happened there, but so many musical proposals were happening this season. Did they not learn from Sal and everyone hating that? Kwame and Chelsea had the most interesting proposal because Kwame made this very strange pants analogy to describe why he wanted to propose to Chelsea. He was like, today I wanted nothing more than to wear black pants. But then I saw all my black pants were dirty. So I found these tan pants and I put them on and I looked great. You are the tan pants, Chelsea. Like, what? So in the honeymoon, Chelsea, it's just so awkward to see this play out because Kwame is just trying so much to convince us, Chelsea himself, that he wants to be with her, but he is just kind of like a little bit cringing at her a bit. I mean, she does have like this baby blanket she sleeps with. She's a little like cheesy. I think that's the chuggy vibe I'm getting. They are the only couple to have sex the first night, so they're kind of outliers this season when normally most of them have sex the first night. He does try to do the right thing, and before they meet up with the rest of the group, he asks permission to be able to go talk to Micah because he's curious. Kwame sets a good precedent there of like, hey, I want to just talk to this other person that I don't have much closure with. Is that okay? And Chelsea says, that's okay. But then once the pool party happens, Micah is hella flirting with him, and he is still very hurt by this intense breakup he had and confused. Micah keeps trying to rope him in, like trying to get him to take shots with her. Irina's like wing-womaning her. Like, I can't believe these mean girl best friends. They are straight out of fiction. But Kwame's just like falling into the Micah trap, you know? And I do feel like it was the alcohol that betrayed him. And Kwame does admit to the camera that he is attracted to Micah. And he seems pretty tipsy at that point. But at least he doesn't say it to her face. Season 3 men. I don't know which is worse. I think saying it to her face is worse. As much as people love to say like, honesty is the best policy and being direct is good. Some things you should keep to yourself, I think. But that's kind of subjective. So after this party, Kwame is feeling a lot more unsure about Chelsea. He is still trying to keep it together, keep it strong, but he does kind of agree when Micah mentions that Chelsea can be a lot. She also makes this joking comment that like, to our failed proposal when they're toasting, and Kwame gets really upset about this. And that's why they end up talking a lot, but it just gets flirty and she's like, I'm not a mean person, even though I am. At this party, Chelsea gets really upset that Micah and Kwame are just flirting so much. And all the other women are supporting her, like, Jackelina's like, I would have beheaded him already. The next day, Chelsea and Kwame have this spiritual ceremony thing and they end up making amends. She does forgive him and he is doubling down on her. We leave off with them where they talk about which couples they think are gonna make it or not. He's not sure if Micah and Paul will make it, which just seems to be like the classic answer for the guy that is wishing for the girl he wants to be single. I feel like this was Bartice's response to like SK and Raven. Finally, let's get to our last couple, which is probably our messiest, and that is Zack and Irina. By the end of episode 5, this couple is no more. They are broken up. In the pods, Zack, aka the fourth property brother, is torn between two women, like many of these. One is Irina and one is Bliss. And Zack, for some reason, keeps telling everyone he's a stripper at first as a joke, but also to test if they're gonna judge him because his mom was a stripper. He does have a really touching backstory, it seems. He's actually an attorney. It would have been more fitting for him to joke about being a stripper if he was an accountant. That's like a TikTok thing. It's his birthday in the pods, and Bliss makes him cupcakes for it and does this whole thing, and Irina forgets his birthday completely. Irina's trying to steal a candle from Bliss. She asks her for one, and Bliss is like, no, you didn't have anything prepared, that's on you. Much respect to Bliss, more on her in a sec. But Irina is just like such a mean girl, and she's not even the main mean girl. She is like such a Gretchen Wieners, like to a T. She's feeling really insecure because Bliss is kind of the perfect woman. She's like wife material, baking the cupcakes or whatever. Because Irina sees Bliss doing all this, she goes to Zack and is like, what does she have that I don't have? And basically gives him an ultimatum that she wants to move forward with him and be exclusive. It's giving manipulation and games. And the stupidest thing was that Zack, after this conversation, tells the boys, like, Irina likes to play these games and she's kind of immature, but I trust her. And it's like, why? Like, yeah, she told you about her family growing up poor, but like, that's it. I have no idea why Zack sees the red flags of Irina, yet still thinks she's the best choice. The drama between Bliss and Irina actually makes it to him, and Bliss very subtly and in a classy way implies that Irina is not of the best moral character. But he just gets mad that she's implying Irina's a bad person. But she is. And I stan Bliss. Stan Bliss this season, because when he was mad at her for implying Irina was maybe not a great person, she was kind of like, well, that's on you to figure out. And this is also a test for me to see if you have good judgment or not. Because if you have good judgment, you will see that Irina is not a great person, is what she was implying with that. And I thought that was just such a great response. Like, turn it on him and let him figure out if she's a good or bad person. And if he can't be a good judge of character, then you don't want him anyway. Like Jackelina said, Bliss dodged a bullet. And that is literally what I wrote in my notes before Jackelina even said it. It's his loss because Bliss was very mature, very chill, very classy, very beautiful too. And he totally missed out. She even went and made amends with Irina, and they were good, as good as they could be. She told Zack, like, hey, I made amends with Irina and we're good now, and he still breaks up with her. But she handles that really maturely too. She's like sad about the breakup, but she's also like, you know what, he made his choice and that's what it is. So Irina, we've talked about her bit. She's just so bitchy. And it feels like she just wants to get engaged to Zack. First of all, to one-up Bliss. Also, I feel like she just wants to get engaged to, like, not end up alone. And she did have this one date with Zack where he was like, I feel like you're vicious. And it was so funny because she was like, me? Vicious? How dare you? But her face was kind of like, oh, I got caught. I am vicious, aren't I? She tries to turn on the charm. There was enough red flags for him not to go forward with this, but he does not realize. And this one point where she's like, I don't care if you're a dweeb or a nerd. And then once they got engaged and met, guess what she did care about? That he's a dweeb and a nerd. Oh my god, this was another proposal where he sang a song, and he sang it so poorly and like bad. I could not tell if he was being like sincere and thinks he's a good singer or like it was a joke. I have no idea what was going on there. So when they meet, Irina is already being a complete bitch to him. She's like, you look like a cartoon character. Stop staring at me, you're creepy. He like tries to kiss her and she rejects it. And she says like, I thought you'd be a little more normal. Like, she's acting like she's the most gorgeous person in the world. And I'm not someone to judge on appearances. I actually think this whole cast this season is very like normal looking, and I appreciate that. Like, they look like people you would see in real life. And Irina, like, she is judging Zack so much on his appearance when, like, it's not like she is Raven from season 3 up in here. Also, I have to say, I mean, I'm not much better with my eyebrows, but like I cannot stop staring at Irina's eyebrows because she has taken the laminating trend too far. I think this is like the eyebrow trend nowadays, to have it like very gelled and like up, but like they are a bit distracting, I gotta say. And so on the honeymoon, like, Irina's just disgusted by Zack, like, doesn't want to be near him, but still trying to pretend like there's potential there. And Zack is just trying his best to, like, pretend there's still something there. She, like, friend zones him immediately. She's like, basically, let's just try and be friends. He also keeps singing, so maybe he does think he's good, but, like, he's not. And she's very annoyed by his singing. Didn't like it in the proposal. I mean, I don't blame her on that one. Once Irina sees Paul, he's very into Paul. And it makes no sense because Zack, Paul and Zack are like the same type. Like, I don't think they look identical, but they look pretty similar. And I would say they are of the same type of guy. So she's like, Zack is just not my type at all. But Paul is exactly my type. And it's like, bitch, same type. What are you talking about? And Irina starts turning on the charm for Paul when she's talking to him and starts flirting with him. She doesn't care he's engaged to her best friend. Ugh, I want these mean girls to like go at each other so bad. And so eventually Zack and Irina break up. And I really love their breakup conversation because it was this glimpse of an actual real conversation on this show. They're going back home and Zack is like, we should just call it. Like, it's obviously not working. This has been horrible. And she's like, I can't believe you're still hanging on. I thought you would have left me. And he was like, I wanted to leave you on day 3, but that would be fucked up. And she's like, I wanted to leave you when I saw you. It's so funny because in this moment, it's like the most chemistry they've ever had. They're not like mad or at each other. They are bantering in a funny way. And it just feels so real. It's these moments why I watch shows like Love is Blind, these glimpses of truth that are rare, but they show up when the right circumstances just align and someone is like triggered or the guard is down. As like uncomfortable as this conversation was, it was just so real. Like, this is how I picture these contestants talk outside of the cameras. He's just like, I've been thinking about Bliss the whole time. And she's like, well, I'm into Paul. And he's like, well, he's dating your best friend, so good luck with that. These are the moments I watch the show for. And it was real. Like, you can't tell me that was not a real conversation. It just goes to show how much they were faking it. This whole honeymoon, they were trying to make it work, and they just revealed their actual thoughts this whole time. All of these other couples are probably faking it just as much, but we got just this glimpse of like peeking behind the curtain and seeing two people have like a real conversation. And it's kind of why I like a show like Love is Blind compared to shows like Too Hot to Handle or Perfect Match, or that one like show that sounded like incest but wasn't incest, Dated and Related, that one. You might have noticed I don't cover those TV shows, even though they're in a very similar vein as Love is Blind and The Ultimatum, these other trashy Netflix dating shows. I just feel like there's a difference. Those shows are so produced, and like the vibe between everyone, it's giving colleague vibes with everyone on those shows. Like, they're just there to kind of model bathing suits and like tantalize the viewer like as far as they can without becoming like straight up porn. They're just models or wannabe, you know, celebrities, influencers that are trying to show off their good looks and their personalities. Some people are into that type of content, but other shows like Love is Blind that are set up in a way that's trying to mirror reality more, as produced as it is, you get these glimpses of truth. And that is why I watch the show, and everyone watches it for their own reasons. But I just found it interesting thinking about like, why don't I like this kind of trashy TV, but I like this kind of trashy TV? And I think it comes down to having nuggets of reality. I don't know. If y'all relate, let me know. So we end episode 5 back in Seattle, and we see Zack meet up with Bliss for the first time, and it leaves on that cliffhanger. He does say he made the wrong choice, and that's where we leave it. And I just hope, for Bliss's sake, she does not entertain Zack more than this casual lunch date. Or maybe I hope she does entertain him so that she can get on the show and get her clout that she deserves. It depends what her goals are. If she wants to be famous, but I stand Bliss. I don't care. We'll see how much more we see of her. So that is season 4 so far. I would love to know your thoughts and first impressions about the cast in the comments below. Please keep it civil. It's just a TV show. Like, who cares? This season just feels wild. And I'm excited for it. I'm living for the drama. I love having a good reality TV villain. As hateable as they are, it just makes for a great season. Like, my favorite seasons of other shows are ones with unapologetic villains. Jade, America's Next Top Model season 6, Johnny Fairplay on the Pearl Island Survivor season 7. Before I started season 4, I saw this Reddit post on my feed that was like, Micah and Irina are bullies. And I was like, damn, this Reddit thread is already hating on these girls. I didn't open the thread, I just saw that was like the title, the headline. And I was like, oh my god, this Redditor is so heated already. And then I watched the 5 episodes and I was like, damn, that Redditor was too nice. I see what they mean now. Let me know your thoughts on Love is Blind season 4 in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. I will be trying to make updates and commentary as the season goes on. We'll see how the schedule plays out, but usually I do 2 or 3 videos per season and then cover after the alters later when that happens. Also, y'all, I tried so hard to DM Netflix and the Love is Blind social medias to send me PR for the season, because last season a bunch of people got PR and I was like, bitch, I want a gold cup. And then I was gonna buy a gold cup on Amazon to have for this video so that, you know, I'd be on theme and stuff. But then it was like $30 and I was like, I don't want to spend $30 for a cup. I'm trying to buy a house. I'm not trying to buy a $30 cup. But if you subscribe, I can get monetized and maybe buy myself a couple gold cups for these videos. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos once a week or so. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.